What's up? What's up? Welcome to Flippin the Script podcast, where we aim to educate the community through financial literacy, community involvement. And today I have an extremely wonderful guest by my side, special guest, my daughter, Danielle Rancifer. Danielle Rancifer, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So since the name of the podcast is Flipping the Script, I think that it would be more appropriate for me to interview you today and kind of flip things around.
Oh, so you literally flipping the script.
Yes, quite literally.
Okay, great. Let's do it.
So I think the thing that I want to start off with is kind of your journey to getting where you were, especially with your business and everything. I think we all know the phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day, and your empire wasn't built overnight. It wasn't even built over a few weeks or a few months. It was built over many years and a lot of hard work. So can you kind of walk me through that?
Absolutely. But before we jump into me, why don't we please allow me to reintroduce myself. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you before we go into the questions, because I definitely don't want it to be all about me today. I definitely want to expose you and who you are and enlighten our guest out there on who you are.
Yeah. Okay. So I am currently a sophomore at Louisiana State University, and I'm studying broadcast journalism with a minor in theater and a potential minor in political science. I've always loved to talk, and I've always loved to write creative writing, poetry, essays, even in school. They were difficult, but I found some joy in them. And my junior year, I joined our newspaper staff, The Echo, and I was a news reporter, and I really found a love for journalism there. I didn't know existed, the being able to combine my love for talking and making connections with people with my love for writing. And then my senior year in high school, I became the news editor for our paper. So I got to, oversee some reporters, edit those pages, really got me in depth with like the software and everything. And then my second semester of freshman year at Louisiana State University, I became a news reporter at Tiger TV. It's our broadcast station there at school. It's 100% student-led media. And I've just learned so much about editing, about, putting myself in professional situations. I've gotten to know so many great people. And I did another semester as a reporter. And recently I was just promoted to assistant news director. So that's been great. I wasn't expecting it so soon, but I'm so excited to get started. I've gotten to interview a congressman, a mayor. I've gotten to anchor election shows. And of course, I've been able to learn a lot during my time there. So yeah, I think that's all the broad strokes.
Awesome. So obviously to say that I'm a proud father would be an understatement. So definitely appreciate, you coming to join us, and definitely proud of you. So, that goes without saying how proud I am of the young lady you're becoming, and the young lady I know you're going to grow up to be. So thank you.
It's so sweet. Thank you.
Okay, now we'll flip the script a little bit and allow you to ask whatever questions that you may have for Pops, which you probably already got the answer to, but, we're going to kind of talk to our audience to educate them as well.
Yeah. So going back to, where we started, how you kind of built the empire, because I've obviously seen pieces of it. You're my dad, and you've allowed me to tag along with you, looking at properties, go to signings, inspect properties that you're looking at purchasing. But I kind of want to know the steps that it took, because I've really only seen it when it was, at its most successful and at its greatest. So what kind of happened before that?
So a lot of people, that's what happened, right? A lot of people see the end result and, really don't understand the progress and the process on what it took to get there. A lot of people love the view from the mountain, but they don't like the climb. So that's one part of the process that I enjoy. I enjoy the process of beginning to end. And it's not always pretty. It's going to be some peaks and valleys in that process. It's going to be some ups and downs, but as long as you stay committed to your goal, I think it'll all end up where you felt it should be. But again, I would say, from the journey in terms of, growing up young and what I expected, I'm pretty, well versed in real estate. So that doesn't mean that I don't have I have all the answers, right? I'm steady learning, and I think any advice that I would give to the up and coming real estate investor is just continue to learn, no matter how much you think you may know, but continue to learn on your journey.
Okay, and so like I said, I've seen you work so hard over the years with all these different things, and I have never been able to truly describe the passion that I've seen you have for your work. And I know a lot of people who are, doing 9-to-5s or entrepreneurship, either way. I don't think I've really seen a passion like yours. And I just want to know how you keep that, because you are doing a dozen different things in the day. And I know a lot of people can get worn out, but you take those things and you take them as a challenge and you take them as a privilege. And so how does that kind of work for you?
Obviously, the Bible says with great reward comes great responsibility. So I understand the responsibility that has been entrusted in me. And I understand that it's, the process that it takes. In terms of the passion, I mean, it's just something you got to be born with, right? You got to love what you do. And I always say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. So, I'm coming in working 10, 12, 14-hour days. But, I would say the key is, one, staying physically fit, keeping God first, because again, there's going to be a lot of challenging times where you want to give up. It's a lot of days that I want to give up, but that's where the mental strength comes in, just training, meditating, praying, and all of those things come into play to help you, go through those long days and there's plenty of them. And having a family, obviously, growing up, you experienced it, having a father in a position like myself, there's a lot of sacrifices that come along with that, right? Sacrifices that, your kids, you don't always be able to, do everything you would enjoy or want to do with them. But at the same time, you understand this, you're doing it for them, because again, you want life to be not as hard as you had it, right? You want to give your kids the opportunity that you didn't have. So, thank you for being understanding and sacrificing a lot of time and that you would have ordinarily got with your father. But, I was able to put a lot of time into the business. Yes.
So I have noticed one thing throughout your working. I've obviously always thought you were great. Like, I'm very impressed with your business savvy, with your passion, with everything that you do. And I think it's amazing. And it's something obviously that I want for myself in my career path. And I notice one thing that you will tell anyone that you're working with, that's working for you, that you just see working, is never be complacent, never get to a place where you feel like you have nothing left to learn. And you have taught me this lesson a few times, and I'm sure you'll teach it a few more. But how has that really helped you get to where you are, and how do you continue that? Because obviously you're great, and I feel that you have reached a level of success that's incredibly impressive, and a lot of people in your position would kind of be like, okay, I've reached my peak, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I don't really have much more to grow into. So how do you kind of dismiss those thoughts and keep on growing, keep on trying?
It's quite simple. The minute you become comfortable in anything, then that's when situations and problems occur, because I know you can never become comfortable or complacent. That leads to destruction and to end of whatever you have. So I've always understood that, and understood no matter what I think I may have or how comfortable I think, things are, I make myself uncomfortable. A lot of people say that I strive in discomfort situations, and that may be true, because I understand with any level of discomfort comes a level of success. So when I know, I'm in a situation where, I'm not as comfortable as I would ordinarily like to be, I know I'm on my way to the next level. So that's what I do. And whenever I feel that I'm too comfortable, I know it's time for a change, because I'm not doing something I'm supposed to do, because it's never supposed to be easy.
Wow. It's a great answers. So let's talk numbers, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about like the statistics of your business and like what you've done throughout your time. So with all the, you and mom call them doors, like how many doors do you have throughout your entire career? And I know this is a very broad question, but on estimate, how many doors do you think you've had?
Have, or flip. So how many I currently have is right around 400 doors. But a lot of times it's not necessarily about the numbers. You hear it all the time. It's not the quantity, but the quality, because I can have 400 doors, and if they're not, producing X amount of dollars, it's just a whole lot of work, right? So I try to, put myself in situations to where when I evaluate a house or property or a door, that we're looking to bring in on average $300 or $400 in profit per door monthly, because again, you're going to have situations to where a furnace goes out. You know what I'm saying? A furnace can go out, can cost you, $2,000. So if you're working with a small profit margin in that number, then you might not, show a profit for several years on that particular property. So that's why it's essential to make sure you're in a position to where you have a comfortable, cash flow, positive cash flow on that particular property.
Okay. And so I was just thinking, could you walk me through the process from like start to finish of how it goes from viewing a property to deciding how much you want to spend on it? And then once you spend that money, how you're deciding to renovate it, to rent it out, the money that you're deciding to spend on contractors, on supplies, kind of, I don't know if this is completely realistic, but if someone is starting with like a budget of $100,000 and they're looking for a house that they want to eventually rent out, what can they do with that money start to finish?
So when you say $100,000, first of all, my motto is, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense, right? Mm-hmm. So when I evaluate the property, whether it's a property where I'm gonna put, $25,000 into it renovations or $200,000 in renovations, I got to make sure, because the money is made on a property when you purchase it, not when you finish it. So a lot of times we misevaluate those properties, and we don't understand that money is actually made on the initial purchase of the property. Like when you evaluate it, how much you're paying for the property, how much the property costs, and all of that. So, yeah, excuse me, I thought
That's okay.
he do not disturb.
Okay, so I've seen, obviously, like you go and scout these properties and you have to make these decisions on like certain supplies that you want to buy versus others. So how does that go? Does it depend on the property, the area, what you're looking to rent it out for? Because I'm sure there are, mass differences. And if you get this hardwood or this tile versus this one, that's going to make a significant difference in like hundreds of dollars. So do you go for like more expensive materials when you're in what some would consider like a better area and you want to rent it out for more? Or how does that whole process go?
So again, you can't go into a property. You have to evaluate the property, knowing where you're at with the property, how much the property is going to be worth upon completion, whether you're renting it out, how much, because you can do a property, right? You can put too much into the property, over appreciate it, and you don't even get that value out of it, whether you go to flip it or you go to rent it. So for instance, I can buy a property for $100,000 and you can buy a property for $100,000. I can put $25,000 into it. You can put, $75,000, but we gonna get the same amount of rent based on the area, right? So you don't never want to put yourself in a situation where you overvaluing what you're going to get in return from that property. And same thing when you go to sell, right? You can put the same 50,000, I can put 25, and we're going to sell it for the same amount upon completion. So that comes with experience. So it's not something that the average person going into, because, and you got to remember, you have to know your numbers. The real estate game is all about numbers. You got to go in knowing what's the value going to be at the end. You got to consider all costs. You got to consider, your holding costs, your closing costs, Holding costs is, what it's going to cost you to hold it while you renovate it, like utilities, taxes, insurance. All of these things are holding costs that you got to consider. The interest that you're paying to the bank, to the hard money lender, those are holding costs, closing costs, the points you're paying, all of these factors, the commission, once you go to sell it. So you have to factor in all of these numbers, because a lot of people, you'll see, I like to tell people it's not as seen on TV, because a lot of times people will see something on TV and like, man, I can get rich by flipping houses. Literally I've been in situations to where I flip a house and, just broke even. In some cases I might have lost, because, it's always going to be unforeseen situations that come up that you might not be aware of. So it's just key that you know your numbers. So the biggest advice that I can get any, first time investor is know your numbers and get a mentor. Don't go into this saying you're going to, what you're doing because you read a book or you read a couple books or you watched a YouTube. I think it's essential that you go out there and get a mentor to mentor you through the process.
Okay. So with that being said, we've talked a lot about your experience and your success stories and how you've learned from like some of the mistakes that you've made. But what is one thing in your career that when it happened, you were like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get past this. It felt at the time like it was one of those things that's going to be a pretty big stumbling block for you.
When I was homeless, it was literally at that situation where the sheriff came to my door, and said he was there to, back in the market crash in '08. And, the sheriff knocked on my door and told me I had 24 hours to be out of to be out of the house. The bank now, owned the house. So it was at that point where I felt like, man, is it any possible return from this? I think that's the absolute lowest that you can go when you have, a family that you're taking care of, and you literally don't know where you're going to lay your head the next day. So that was the biggest, point where I'm like, am I going to get past this?
And so thinking back to that, what today like kind of really like solidifies like, wow, like I've really, turned my life like all the way around? And how does thinking about those memories kind of push you forward today?
Because again, I remember, I was in my early 30s and I thought I had everything. I'm like, I remember my parents and grandparents saying, life is hard. And I remember saying to myself, because again, before I was, homeless, I had a 3,500 square foot house. You know what I'm saying? 5 bedroom, 3 bath house. So I'm living the American dream. So at that point, I'm like, man, I've done it. Life is easy. And I realized soon after that life isn't as easy as you may think it is. And you that's why I never get comfortable, because I know it can all be snatched away from you in an instant. So that's why I continue to grind, continue to wake up and stay motivated, because I know the minute you get comfortable, things can go astray.
All right. And so I have just heard you say it a dozen times to me that you want to create generational wealth. You want it to make it a thing where your children and your grandchildren, they really are able to not only reap the benefits of the work that you've done, but continue on to that work. And I think that the concept of generational wealth and the goal of reaching that has really been lost in today's society. So what can you tell our viewers about what that truly means and the importance of that? Not just having money for future generations, but teaching them how to save it, how to, use it diligently, and all the work that you've done to get it that you want other generations to appreciate.
Right. So you got to be careful, right? Because obviously generational wealth is a term that's being used a lot lately, but you got to be careful from generational wealth, creating generational wealth and creating a spoiled generation. I think it's a thin line between that, right? Because again, yes, I want to create an opportunity where my kids don't have to struggle and get an advantage. And when they graduate, high school, they don't have to worry about how they're going to pay for college. Their first house is paid for. That's just giving them a head start that I believe, a lot of us in the generation, our past generations wasn't able to provide our kids. But at the same time, you want to teach your kids that they still got to work for everything. And life doesn't, just hand them anything for free. Because, again, my grandma used to say with all the athletes, a fool and his money shall soon part. Right. So if I give you all of this wealth, I don't care how much wealth I give you. You see it all the time from, lottery winners to pro athletes. They can have this wealth, and wealth without knowledge, you're going to soon lose it all. Right. So I think it's key as you're providing your kids and the next generations with the generational wealth, you also create that financial literacy. Right. Hence, that's one reason why Flippin the Script has been created, to create that financial literacy for the community, because I think it's key and it goes hand in hand with generational wealth.
Okay. And so moving on from the business side of things to the personal side of things, obviously I am your daughter, and we have had a relationship where a lot of it has been based on like knowledge. Like your goal in a lot of our interactions is to teach me, and it's not just obviously about business, but it's about personal values and, goals that you want me to have. And I think that one thing that my dad has always emphasized is hard work and hard work ethic. And like he said before, he has always done his best and sacrificed so much to provide for us. But he's also emphasized the importance of working. And I personally would just like to say thank you, because I feel like my work ethic, I get a lot from you, which my mom's right behind the camera, so she might have some.
So I would like to see you get up a little early. I call my daughter some days and it's 8:00 and she says she's still asleep. I'm like, oh no, we gotta change that.
Yeah, he has a lot to say about the times that I wake up, but I would like to emphasize that I am a night owl. So I may not wake up until like 8:30, 9:00, but I am usually up until like 1 or 2 editing, because I do a lot of that for work, if that makes up for anything, which by space, I don't think it does.
I mean, but you can find some you got to be part of the 5 a.m. club. Most successful people are part of that club. And that's basically getting up, getting your day started. Because again, at 5:00, most people aren't up, right? You know what I'm saying? So you have that advantage over most of the people. I remember Kobe Bryant, one of my greatest athletes of all time, used to say, he just put in much more work. Most people start their day 8:00 in the gym, 8:00, rest, come home, go back at 10, at 12, rest, eat dinner, be done. But he gets up at 5, in the gym at 6, come back, rest, back at the gym at 10, and, rest, go back at the gym. So he's working out 4 times a day, where the average athlete is working out twice a day. So if you compound that over year after year, he's that much more better than everybody else, because it's inevitable, right? So, with that 5 a.m. club, just think about how much more you can get done. How many editors? Yeah, most of editors are working till 1:00 in the morning, but how many editors are, in addition to working at 1:00 in the morning, is up 5, 6:00 in the morning working on a project? Again, those little things is what separate the good from the great. So you just got to make a decision on what level you want to be in life. You want to be average, good, or great, and it's all going to be on the work that you put in. So I'm, Pops ain't gonna never stop going easy on you, because I know what it takes. I'm a prime example of, the more the work you put in, the luckier you get. And you've been blessed with opportunities as, the news director, but just the more work you put in, you can own that news station, and that should be the ultimate goal.
I would like to emphasize that I've been getting talks like this for the past 18 years. So I've grown to appreciate them and to really soak them in. I do really want to get up in the morning, and I know eventually when I graduate, okay, I promise you, there's something about the quietness of like 1 a.m., like just being able to edit and do all my work silently. But I do know that once I graduate and I eventually start working at a news station, that I'll be doing those like early morning shifts that a lot of new reporters end up doing, the like 2 a.m. to like 3 p.m. shift. So I'm going to start preparing for it soon.
So just to give you a little insight, you said you would like to get up at that time. All you got to do is get up. One thing about me is I don't actually need an alarm. My passion, my drive wakes me up every morning because I know what I need to accomplish. So I can get up and tell you what time it is just by how the sun is where it is. So and I get up every morning based off of that. When you're doing something in routine, your body knows. And again, I'm not tired at the end of the day because I'm putting in that work, I'm eating right. And again, it goes hand in hand. Not only do I, just say I'm gonna put in this work, but I make sure I eat right because I know how much I demand of my body. So, I don't eat the junk. I eat food that's gonna, put me in a position to where my body can maintain that high level of demand that I put on it. So.
Yeah, I know. I definitely need to be better with my eating habits. I think that I'm taking for granted my useful metabolism right now. But also, I feel like I don't eat much, and I eat the same things over and over again, which I don't know if that's healthy or not. I don't know
if they're healthy items, they are healthy.
I mean, like grilled chicken, vegetables.
Then
it's all I know how to cook back at school. So that's what I've been eating. But okay, so I have flip the script for most of the time. It kind of monopolized our time a little bit here. But if you wanted to flip it back and ask me a couple of questions.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. But definitely, I mean, obviously, I know, what advice would you give someone because I know obviously going off to school, it was tough. A lot of students at the time, never in most cases been away from their family for any long period of time. What would you say, what advice would you give the next person who's watching and say, I would say this is what I would do if I was you and when you go off to school? What advice would you give?
I definitely think finding the people that, have the same values as you, have the same beliefs as you, and the same work ethic. A lot of the time, my freshman year, I was surrounded by, whoever I could find, kind of whoever was closest. And that was a big mistake. I learned a lot of the people that I was surrounding myself with didn't have academic goals, didn't have goals for their future the same way I did. Not in like a negative way that I'm talking about them. It was just like a clear fact. And, that kept me pretty isolated. And that made it harder because I didn't fit in with them, and I knew that, and I was scared to go out and find another group. And so I was kind of like left in this little bubble that made it so hard to be away from home. But as time went on and I started my new job and I made a lot of friends that had the same beliefs as me, had the same work ethic, the same drive, the same like need to succeed, I was able to get out with people who had common interest and goals. So I don't go out much. I don't party much at all. I find a lot of joy in, the simple things, staying inside, watching movies, working on, my editing and my news reporting. And I surrounded myself with people who were proud of me for that, who, encouraged me to keep doing that. And so I think it's just finding people who have common goals and interests because they'll get you out of your bubble in the right way. Obviously, like you can find people who are super outgoing when it comes to going to the bar and going to party. And if that's not your...
Wait. That is the dead. You're not old enough to go to the bar. So...
Okay, let me tell you something. College is very interesting this way because at LSU, they do have party places that are 18 plus. Don't worry. Okay. But I don't go out anyway. So it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, and I also want to tell you, I don't ever want you to get comfortable away from being home. That's just the father and his baby girl that he always wanted to be, be his baby girl. So, I'm just joking. I always want you to be comfortable in any environment that you're in. But again, I'm just, so proud of you and just happy to see where you at, happy to see the smile on your face. But just touching back on something that you said that you realized that you had to surround yourself with the right people that have the right goals. The thing about that is that's everywhere in life. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I have to put myself in those same situations, because if I surround myself with people that all they want to do is go to the bar and go to hang out, and, you know, at my age, it's the real bar. It ain't the LSU college bar. So, you know, I was always saying growing up, you know, and again, taking a quote from Kobe, he said, you know, with success come inherited sacrifices, right? You're not always going to be a good friend. It was a lot of times that my friends wanted to say, man, let's go out, let's go, you know, let's go hang out, let's go kick it. And I knew I had to get up in the morning, whether it was early in the morning for work, because I know I couldn't be as productive if I went and hung out at the bar and kicked it all night and till 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and then try to go to work and be productive. I knew that I was going to limit myself, right? So all of those things growing up, I made those hard decisions. And a lot of times, you know, friends saying, man, you boring, man, you don't like to do nothing, you don't like to do nothing. But again, that's boring in your eyes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always been satisfied with, you know, what I had, what I was doing. And I think that's all about what's within you. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever let nobody change who you are. And that's anybody out there. Never let nobody change who you are. You always got to stay true to yourself, committed, and always working towards, you know, whatever goal that you have.
Yeah. And to point back on what you said, not letting anyone change you, I think the biggest fallacy that people fall for, especially younger people, is thinking that you can spend an extended period of time with people who don't have goals and dreams and values like you, and think that you can stay who you are and maybe eventually change them. And you can be a person of strong will and strong faith. I 100% believe that, but it is really easy to fall into the trap when you have goals and dreams that you want to accomplish, to see all these people partying, not prioritizing the things that matter, and kind of being like, you know what, if they can do it, I can do it, and I can just do it this once, or I can just do it this twice, and kind of falling into that trap. And a piece of advice, unfortunately, that side of like of no work ethic and of partying and of prioritizing fun over the things that really matter, that is always going to win over the things that really matter. It's so easy to get caught into, this is college and this is a once in a lifetime experience, but at the end of the day, you're in college for a reason, and you're going to feel way more accomplished at the end of the semester when you are, you know, you have good grades and you aren't worried about academic probation, and you can like come to your parents and be like, this is what I did this semester.
Wait a minute. I was on academic probation, so what?
And that's why you can always bounce back, as we see. But yeah, so I think that is what I had to learn. I spent a lot of time around those people, and eventually either they're going to win out and they're going to change you into a person that you don't like when you look in the mirror, or you're just going to get exhausted. It's really exhausting always having to be like, no, guys, I don't want to, and I prefer not to. And it's really hard having to justify all of your decisions when you're deciding not to partake in those kind of things. And that's no way to live. I've lived that way, and now I'm much happier being true to being around people and being true to myself and being around people who respect that. So that's another piece of advice. I mean, hey, take it or not, you'll see one way or another. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so what, as you go through the journey of the college experience, what is it, what you expected? What would you say? Well, I thought it would be this, or I thought it would be that. What have you learned since you've been at college?
I've learned that I really like my alone, quiet time, which I thought in college, like you see those like Friends or like other college shows where everyone is like together all the time, and you have these big groups of like guys and girls that hang out all the time and whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to get to college, I'm going to find me one of those groups, and it's just going to be, it's not like that. I have a good group of friends now, but for the most part, I hang out with the same like one or two people all the time. Like the schoolwork, they really say that like you have to make time, because in all reality, you are paying to be there. But the professors give you this and like, listen, this is going to be doing too much.
In your case, your parents are paying for you to be there. But I get what you're saying.
Just in case anyone was confused. Clear it up. But yeah, so they give you these assignments that have these like these due dates, and you're like, that doesn't even seem real. It's so far away. until you get to the week of and you're like, this is very real. And they gave me 2 months to do it for a reason. And I've definitely had it where I'll be getting text in like 11, 12 p.m. Danny, did you? Yes, I did it. I don't know if I can help you, but mine is done. And so it was nice to not to be like receiving those texts instead of sending them. And, you know, I think a lot of people, they really, if it's not in front of them, they forget to do it. And I've had to learn that that is not how you do things in college. Like I've really had to work on my time management, which both of my parents know is it's a test for me.
Right. Because obviously, as you know, even in high school, your parents, your mother wakes you up, you know, baby, it's time to get up, go to school. But when you off to college, you 1,000 miles away from home, you don't got nobody nudging you saying, get out of the bed. So how do you stay motivated in that environment, knowing everything is on you? Your success and or failures is based on your routine. How do you adjust to that? Was that a hard adjustment?
It was a difficult adjustment, not having that like constant encouragement. Like, you know, obviously if I like did good on like a test or an exam, I'd call my parents. I'm like, look at what I did. But it's not as simple as like they're right there and they can provide that encouragement. If you've had a long day, they can like take you somewhere. I think knowing that it was all on me was hard, but it also encouraged me more because it was at a situation where they have provided all the steps that I've needed. They're taking care of my tuition. I have a place to live. I have food to eat. I have everything that I need. And this is all on me. So it was a really motivating thing because it is a time to prove to myself that all the tools that I need are right here. I just have to use them. And so I believe that I've accomplished some really amazing things. And
you have.
Thank you. And being able to look back on them, I'm really proud of myself, but also I want to, at the end of the day, make my parents proud because with all the sacrifice they've put in, I think it would be, you know, unfair for me to go throughout this journey and not have them in mind. So in the back of my mind, I'm always like, the first thing I do, especially when I got my promotion to assistant news director, I called my parents in a group FaceTime call. I'm like, guys, look, I was so excited. And I know that they're proud of me because they've put all this time, energy, and effort into me. So, you know, having parents like that, having a family like that who has invested so much also, you know, gets me encouraged. You know, I do it for myself. I always like to say I do it for myself, but I do it for my family too. So
again, and that's a great point because I think whenever you're looking to accomplish something, you always got to have that why, because that why is what keeps you motivated in times of, you know, doubt, in times of, you know, discomfort and, you know, times of question. So what is your why? What is your why to say, this is why I'm doing it? What would you say your why is?
Well, obviously it's my family, like my parents, but more specifically, I have a little cousin. Her name is Chloe, and she's 10 or 11. 10. She's 10. And she's like my little shadow whenever we're together. She's the cutest thing. And I remember one time she told me, she was like, I'm going to do cheer and I'm going to do theater just like you did in high school. And honestly, it almost made me like burst into tears because it really reminded me that I have people like looking at me that aren't like my parents or people that are older than me. Like she literally wants to be just like me. And my niece, Chloe, she's named after me, actually. Her name's Chloe Danielle. And she is a little older than one. And I babysat her all throughout the time, like the summer before I went to college. And leaving those two was probably like the hardest part of leaving for school. And whenever I come back there,
so it wasn't leaving your parents that was by your side your whole life, encouraging you.
No, it is for sure. It's a toss up, you know. But those
I'm
two
in competition with a 1-year-old.
She's really cute, guys. You guys are, you'd understand. But those two, being an inspiration for them, like making sure when they see me, they see an example of what they want to do, whether they want to be something completely different, if they want to be an architect, or if they want to go into the same field as me. I just want to show them that like I'm here for them, that they can do it because I did it. And I love the two Chloes so much. They are the definition of a why. They're my inspiration every day. And of course, my very handsome, very successful father too.
Thank you. Thank you. But I think that's key. You have to have a why because again, when it's going to be days when you say, do I need to go to class? Do I want to go to class? Do I want to get up in the morning and do this? And my why is saying I want to provide a better, life for my kids, my grandkids. I just want to put them in a position that I wasn't able to be in. So that's my constant why, because again, if you're just saying, I do it for myself just because I want to, you'll easily give up. It has to be big. Your why has to be bigger than you. It has to be beyond you, because it's somebody that you don't want to let down. Because time to time we'll let ourselves down. We'll say, I'm gonna go to the gym because I want to, do better, but we don't go. So we'll let ourselves down time and time again. But when we have a why, that it's hard to let that why down. You'll let yourself down before you let that why down. That why is whether it's, a lot of kids, I want to build my mother a house. I want to buy my mother a house. I want to, get my mother out of this situation, my family out of this situation. That's what's going to keep you going. So I think it's critical for anybody to have that why and make sure you constantly remind yourself of why you working as hard as you do, because that's what's going to keep you motivated.
Yeah. And I think also I'm truly very, very lucky because I grew up with two parents who placed expectations on me in a good way, like not in a way that was too overbearing, but I am not okay with just average because they taught me not to be okay with just average. And I remember last semester or the semester before, I got a 3.93, I think, or a 4. And I was so disappointed because I was this close away from the dean's list, like so close, or the president's list, which is a perfect 4.0. And I was incredibly disappointed. And my parents, obviously, they're like, Danny, like, did you do your best? Like, as long as you did your best, that's what matters, if you gave it everything you had. But I know some people who are okay with, not that there's anything wrong with this, we are all on our own academic journey, just as a preface, but who are okay with like a 2.0, like a 2.5 or whatever. And it's not just about, gaining or maintaining scholarships for me. It's because I expect greatness out of myself because my parents taught me that. And a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people's parents are okay with like, as long as, what is everybody else doing? And if you're doing that around that, it's okay. It's like, my parents are like, what are you doing? Every single day they're checking in. How are the grades looking? What are you doing to improve? How's your job looking? How are you learning? So having people who expect greatness out of you because they believe you can do it is also instrumental, because I've seen people not expect that out of themselves because they were never taught to. And that makes a big difference.
Right. So you look at a lot of times, you look back on different families who had hard parents, and you look at we're right next to Gary, right? We're in East Chicago, Indiana, right next to Gary, Indiana. And when you think of Gary, Indiana, you think of the Jackson 5, and you think of how everybody, said Joe Jackson was the hard parent. But again, look at what he was able to create for his kids. Yeah, I'm sure at the time as they going through that hard parenting and all of that, they thought it was tough, but the end result is they became the most popular, most famous family in America, right? So again, you look at other hard parents, like Serena and, her sister, the Williams sisters, right? They had a hard father, same thing. Those results produce, Tiger Woods and his father. So when you have that father figure, and those hard parents and that in your life, the results. And I think you got to balance it between the love and the hard, because you got to give just as much love as you do the hard parenting, right? But I think those hard parenting results will definitely end up great at the end. So thank you for allowing me, for accepting the hard parenting from me. And, again, I'm overly proud of what you've accomplished. And I know, as I tell you all the time, the sky's the limit. The sky's not even the limit with you. You can go far and beyond. So definitely appreciating everything you're doing.
Thank you. I would also like to add, which is important to note, that this man, he's very quite funny as well as like very educational. When I was younger, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 48 Laws of Power. I feel, oh, and E.T. Thomas. When I tell you, he took me to school every morning, and I vividly remember E.T. Thomas was an integral part of our morning routine. Wake up, wake up, wake up. So I used to we listened to it so often that I would start playing it on my own, which I don't know if I ever told you that, but I would play it on my own. I would listen to it with mom. I would make her listen to it. And it's just he made learning, he made, stimulating your mind, gaining knowledge from the people who obviously had success. He made that, normal for us. It wasn't oh my gosh, he's having us. I'm yep, nope, dad's having us read another book. He's having us listen to motivational speaking in the morning. He made it so all of that stuff was the norm. And I think that was incredibly valuable. I appreciate that to this day. And the book reports, that was an interesting route that you went. But now I can appreciate it. So, yes, thank you for that.
What book report do you remember?
It was for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I distinctly remember that because I remember you telling me to read it over and over. I was like, I don't like this book. I don't want to read this book. It was a strange man on the front. And then I opened the book up and I was like, oh, wow, it's actually really good. So that book. And then obviously I've read your book. Great author. Fantastic
author. Awesome.
Yeah, I cannot say enough great things, honestly. I feel like I really know him. So that just getting to see greatness from him and also from my mom and seeing that as the norm, it was amazing. It shaped me into the person that I am today, and I can really appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. But you mentioned being a great author. What? I'm not the only author in the family, right? When did you ever write a book? How old were you when you wrote your first book?
I did write a book when I was 8 years old. My parents love to bring this up, but it was just a book about, I was writing a little something with my mom, and it was about expanding and exploring your mind. It's a 15-page book, I think, but I think the reaction that I got an award for that, youngest author for that, which was really cool. But the way that my parents really supported it and encouraged me to keep going, I think is what really sparked my love for writing. And since then, obviously, I've kept up with journalism, but I write poetry that I've entered and won a couple of contests for, short stories that I've also won a couple contests for, essays that I have also won a couple contests for. But those things really have all stemmed from kind of the encouragement that I got from writing that book. And, a lot of people, they will take things like that and oh yeah, she's a little kid, she's writing a book. But my parents, they truly believe that I have this greatness inside of me, and they emphasize that. And it really, encouraged me to keep going with it. And I have found a complete love for writing throughout my life. It's been really important to me in dark times in my life, in times where I just needed an outlet. And it's something that I'm really, really proud of. One of the things that I love doing most, whether it be professionally or personally or anything in between. So yes, I am an author. I do get it from my dad. So
thank you. So again, I just want to thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have my daughter on Flippin the Script podcast. I think, this is a moment that'll go down and as one of the great and, Flippin the Script podcast history. So thank you. Anything else you want to add before we?
I am truly just impressed by the things that my dad does, and I'm truly thankful. I think a lot of the times when you're younger and you see your dad working hard and he's not able to be around so much, it feels oh, he's just doing it because he likes the business, or he's just doing it for him. And as I've grown up, I have realized that you do it for us. And I don't think that we say thank you, not for the things that it provides us, but for the sacrifice that you have to make in order to do it. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me here. Any excuse to talk with an audience is always nice. So I think that's all.
You did a wonderful job. I know you were a little nervous to begin with, but I just want to tell you personally, obviously, my opinion is a little biased, but you did an amazing job. And again, I'm just looking forward to greatness in you. And not only us believing that you have greatness, I think it's key for everybody out there to understand that we all have greatness within us. So it's just a matter of unlocking that greatness and just, aiming for our full potential and living up to our full potential. And that I see that you are definitely doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Danny loves you.
I love you more, Dad. Do we wave or something?
We out.
We out.